What if I told you that every single time you fail, you're actually winning? I know, it sounds completely backwards, but today we're going to explore exactly how to flip that script, how to turn your biggest setbacks into your greatest assets.
Seriously, just let that sink in for a second. What if every stumble, every misstep, wasn't a sign to just give up? What if it was hard, concrete proof that you're in the game, that you're trying, and that you're actually on the right path?
You know, most of us, from the time we're kids, are taught that failure is bad. It's a red mark on a test, right? It's something to be ashamed of. But we're here to challenge that entire idea. We're going to see how those exact missteps can be reframed into the most powerful tools we have for growth.
So, to get started, we've got to identify the main villain in this story, and that is the perfectionism trap. It's that nagging internal pressure, that voice that tells us we can't make any mistakes. And honestly, that's just a perfect recipe for staying completely stuck. This whole thing is fueled by what psychologists call cognitive distortions. The easiest way to think about them is as these automatic negative thoughts that pop into your head and feel 100% real, but they aren't facts. It's like looking in a funhouse mirror. It totally distorts reality and keeps you locked in that perfectionism trap.
Just look at the difference here. It's night and day. On the left, you've got these absolute dead-end statements. They're so final. But on the right, the whole language shifts to growth. It's not about pretending something bad didn't happen. It's about reframing it. This is a disaster becomes, this is a lesson. That one tiny shift in words, it changes absolutely everything.
And that brings us to the real core of this idea. Once you manage to sidestep that perfectionism trap, you start to realize that failure is never, ever the end of the story.
So here's the solution. Every single misstep is just data. That's it. It's not some final judgment on your worth as a person. It is tangible, physical evidence that you are pushing yourself, that you are trying new things, and that you are actively growing.
Okay, so a mindset shift sounds great in theory, right? But how do you actually make it a real, consistent habit in your everyday life? Well, that's where having a practical system comes in, something designed to make this a part of your daily routine.
Let's walk through this system. It's basically a framework for a journal. First up, a wins and lessons section. You're not just writing down what went right, you're digging for the lessons in what went wrong. Then step 2, a goal tracker. This is all about breaking down those huge, scary goals into tiny, manageable steps so you can actually celebrate the small wins. Third, and this is the heart of it, the evidence of growth section. This is where you actively collect the proof of how you're improving. Fourth, you've got daily reflection prompts to kind of nudge your brain in a more constructive direction. And hey, there's even an optional 5th step, a spiritual and motivational corner, for things like affirmations to help center your mindset.
So, what actually happens when you start doing this consistently? Something pretty profound, actually. It doesn't just tweak your day-to-day thoughts. It fundamentally changes the entire story you tell yourself about who you are and what you're capable of.
I mean, think about it. By physically writing this stuff down, you start seeing these patterns of growth you would have totally missed otherwise. You end up celebrating little bits of progress that your inner critic would have just brushed aside. That feeling of shame over a mistake? It starts to get replaced with curiosity. And bit by bit, day by day, you build this undeniable case file that proves your own resilience. Your life stops feeling like a collection of failures and starts looking like a really interesting journey.
And hey, this isn't just theory. Listen to what someone who actually used this system had to say. They said, "I used to dread failure. Now I see it as proof that I'm trying, learning, and growing. This journal helps me finally recognize my own resilience." Wow. That's it right there. That is the exact transformation we're talking about, from dreading failure to seeing your own strength.
Okay, let's bring all this home. How do you actually start writing this next chapter for yourself, starting, well, right now?
It really all boils down to this one powerful idea. The simple act of intentionally documenting your journey, writing down the wins, the lessons, the effort, is how you take back control of that narrator inside your head. You are literally rewriting your own story, one day at a time. And that leaves us with one final question to take with you. And look, it doesn't have to be some huge, life-changing thing. Maybe it was a difficult conversation you finally had. Maybe you practiced a new skill for just 5 minutes. Or maybe you just learned from a simple mistake. So what's one piece of evidence, big or small, that you can find today that proves you're moving forward?